This is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Buddy Rich, his biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about some of his best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up. We start off with The Row of 74, an album that hit during the big band revival of the 70s. The brass hits are explosive, the tempo is volcanic, and Buddy's snare cracks like a whip. This is big band as a full contact sport. Then we swing into Rich and Famous, released in 1976. Slicker, more polished but no less powerful. The arrangements are tight, the ensemble is razor precise, and Buddy plays with that mix of discipline and danger that keeps everyone guessing. Next up, Birdland. Buddy takes a Weather Report classic and turns it into a celebration of groove and swagger. The horns scream, the rhythm section struts. It's modern, melodic, and absolutely electric. And finally, Very Live at Buddy's Place, released in 1973. The sweat-soaked, club-level Buddy Rich experience. Raw, immediate, unfiltered. And you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Buddy Rich, his biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. So now we're going to be talking about Buddy Rich's power years, the 1970s. So we're going to be talking about 4 albums that define that era. 4 records that show Buddy pushing volume, pushing tempo, pushing harmony, pushing his band to the brink, and honestly pushing the entire big band tradition to new generation. So let's jump into the first album. The first one's called The Row of 74. Now, if you ask any Bud Rich hardcore fan what the loudest, fiercest, most adrenaline-soaked Buddy Rich album is, they'll point to this one. The Row of 74 is exactly what it sounds like, the band roaring at full volume with the kind of swagger that only Buddy could generate. You've got screaming trumpets, machine gun shout choruses, and let's not forget 2 fan-favorite tracks, Time Check and Backward Sideman. Time Check especially is practically a rite of passage for drummers. The entire arrangement is built around Buddy's command of the pocket. Even listeners who aren't jazz hearts feel that intensity. Now let's tighten the focus a bit. After all that raw power, Buddy decided to show another side. The second album is called Rich and Famous. Released in 1976, Rich and Famous is what I like to call the sharp suit album. It's Buddy's band dressed up, polished, shiny, super professional, but still dangerous beneath the surface. You get that classic mid-70s production, cleaner mics, tighter horn sections, and arrangements that feel cinematic. A big part of why this album works is the arranging genius of Bob Florence. His charts give the band this lush modern elegance. You hear it in the voicings, wide brass harmonies, thick sax pads, rhythmic punches that lock like puzzle pieces. And that's the magic. Even when he's restrained, he's still the loudest voice in the room. Speaking of modern elegance, the next album took that idea and ran with it. The next one's called Birdland, released in 1977. So 1977, jazz fusion is the new thing. Weather Report is ruling the world. Electric bass is everywhere. Bands are experimenting with funk, rock, electronics. And what does Buddy Rich do? He takes his big band, a traditional big band, and says, we can swing this too. Birdland is Buddy Rich stepping boldly into the fusion era. His arrangement of Weather Report's Birdland is one of the most famous big band covers in jazz history. You get the modern groove, the layered harmony, and Buddy driving with this relentless sophistication. So this album bridges generations. Fusion fans hear and go, okay, the big band guys could hang. And jazz traditionalists listen and think, Buddy Rich can make anything swing. So now we're moving from the studio straight back to Buddy's favorite battlefield, the stage. The next album is called Very Live at Buddy's Place, recorded in 1973 at his own club in New York. And this is Buddy up close, personal and borderline dangerous. The room is small, the audience is right there. You can feel every cymbal hit rattling off the walls. So this album captures something special, Buddy's charisma. The band is insanely tight, the solos stretch out, but the real star here is the atmosphere. Buddy loved being in front of a crowd, he fed off the energy, and on this record you can hear that electricity crackling. It's loose, it's fiery, and it's alive in a way that only small room jazz can be. So that's Buddy Rich of the 70s power era. The Row of 74, the firestorm. Rich and Famous, the polish. Birdland, the modernization. Very Live at Buddy's Place, the raw intimacy. So 4 sides of one unstoppable musician. And that was some insight into more of Buddy Rich's best albums of all time. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. And you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Buddy Rich, his biography and best hits. Now it's time for some trendy music news. So here's something that goes beyond the bandstand. Award-winning pianist, composer and educator Sarah Jane Sion has just released her debut memoir, The Now Era, Improvisations on Presence, Rhythm and the Art of Being Human. And this isn't your typical musician story. It's funny, heartfelt and full of insights about life, creativity, grief and joy, all told through the lens of jazz. So in this book, Sion takes us from the classrooms to the concert hall, from personal reflections to cosmic text messages. The result is a memoir that resonates not just with musicians but with anyone looking to rediscover their own rhythm, their internal tempo, and the art of truly being present. As bassist Bill Crow says, more than a memoir of music, the Now Era is a rhythm for living. Sarah Jane Sion's career spans NPR appearances on piano jazz, international recordings, film and television placements, and an all-in-one piano songbook series. The Now Era is available now in paperback and ebook, a must-read for fans of jazz, storytelling, and living fully in the moment. And that was some trending music news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about more of Buddy Rich's best albums of all time. Stay tuned. And you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Buddy Rich's biography and best hits. During this summer, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up. We start off with No Jive, a title that's as straightforward as the music itself. Recorded in the mid-70s, this album was Buddy's statement against fluff and filter. The arrangements are tight and aggressive, and Buddy's drumming is mercilessly exact. Every snare hit, every cymbal crash sounds intentional, almost confrontational. A masterclass in discipline, speed, and sheer attitude. Next, we travel across the Atlantic to Rich in London, a live album that captures the magic of Buddy's UK tours. The audience energy is palpable. You can almost hear the crowd leaning in, waiting for the next fill. The dynamics are dramatic. One moment Buddy whispers through a delicate brushwork passage. The next, the horns erupt like a thunderstorm. Soloists shine under his leadership, but the true star is the way Buddy drives the entire ensemble. Then comes Class of '78, where Buddy navigates the changing jazz landscape with modern sophistication. The charts are cleaner with fusion-inspired harmonies and slick production, but the intensity never drops. His fills cut like laser beams, the grooves remain tight, the solos breathe without losing momentum. Finally, we arrive at the Buddy Rich Big Band Machine, an album that lives up to its name. Here the band sounds like a finely tuned engine at full throttle. Massive brass punchers, agile saxers, Buddy himself at the center driving everything with relentless energy. It's bold, thrilling, and impossible to ignore. So whether you're discovering these albums for the first time or revisiting old favorites, get ready to hear Buddy Rich like you've never heard him before. During this summer, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. So now we're stepping away from the obvious albums and shining a spotlight on the hidden monsters, the deep cuts, the underrated gems, the Buddy Rich albums that hardcore fans whisper about but somehow never make it onto the top 10 lists. The first one's called No Jive. Released in 1975, No Jive is exactly what the title promises. Straight ahead, no nonsense, no fluff, no fancy commercial curveballs. It's pure, unfiltered Buddy Rich big band swing. So this album flies under the radar for a very simple reason. It wasn't marketed heavily, but musically it's one of the tightest big band records he ever made. The ensemble playing is immaculate, the horn balance is gorgeous, and Buddy sounds like he's having fun, which you don't always hear on the more intense studio records. The next one's called Rich in London, released in 1971. So this live album is a fan favorite among people who love precision. If you ever want to hear Buddy Rich's band playing at the absolute razor's edge of tightness, this is the record. The thing about Rich in London is that the band sounds, and I'm not exaggerating, superhuman. Every section hit is locked. Every shout chorus feels like the brass players are sharing a single brain. There's a kind of British concert hall energy to this one, polished audience, perfect acoustics, high morale. Now we step into one of the rarest and coolest albums in the Buddy catalogue, The Class of '78. This album doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Released in 1978, this one shows Buddy taking his band into a slightly more contemporary space. Melodic lines that feel almost pop-influenced, slicker harmonies, and that late '70s sparkle. The real charm of Class of '78 is the youthful feel. The band sounds energized, like they're excited to be pushing the form forward. There's a sense of optimism in the charts, a brightness. Buddy himself seems to lean into that vibe. His playing here is less aggressive and more conversational. So it's a great album to play for listeners who want something modern but still unmistakably Buddy Rich. The next one's called the Buddy Rich Big Band Machine. This one's from the early '70s and the title says it all. The band is a machine. This record is industrial strength and big band jazz. Dense, powerful, unrelenting. The horn writing is thick, the harmonies are bold, and Buddy is driving it like a runway locomotive. If the Row of '74 was an explosion, Big Band Machine is mechanical precision. And this is one of those albums that musicians respect deeply. The technical difficulty is insane, but the general public barely knows it exists, which is why it's perfect for new listeners to hear it and go, I didn't know big band jazz could sound like that. So there you have it, the deep dives. Rich in London, the precision masterclass. Class of '78, the modern glow-up. And Big Band Machine, the industrial powerhouse. On this week's episode, it's about Buddy Rich, his biography, and best hits. We've come to an end of this week's episode of the Jazz Update, so now it's time to recap what we discussed on today's show. We started with the man himself. Born Bernard Buddy Rich in 1970, by his teens he was touring with major swing bands, and by the 1940s he was the drummer everyone else measured themselves against. The showman whose stick control looked like sleight of hand. Through the decades, Buddy didn't just keep up with jazz, he dragged it forward. Whether it was bebop, big band, fusion, or straight-ahead swing, he demanded intensity, clarity, and absolute commitment from every note played around him. We also spotlighted 5 albums that defined the Buddy Rich legacy. Big Swing Face, the modern big band at full throttle, crisp, bright, unstoppable. Channel One Suite, the recorded performance people still put up to understand drumming genius. Mercy Mercy, the 1968 live burner with arrangement sharp enough to cut glass. The Row of '74, brass heavy, aggressive, Buddy at full maturity. And Class of '78, the late career gem proving he never lost a step, never dropped the fire. Buddy Rich wasn't just a drummer, he was a force of nature, a man who turned rhythm into electricity and set a bar that almost nobody has touched since. And that was a quick insight into everything that we discussed on this week's episode of the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. And on that note, we've come to the end of this week's episode of the Jazz Update. Don't forget, you can check out the archives of today's show on my YouTube channel, the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan. So I'll see you again next week. Have a great week ahead.